Hello and welcome to,
Hey, we like your pod.
and we're going to tell you why. Hi, it's Dawn here, and I'm joined as always by my trusted partner, Matt Pickett. How you doing, Matt? How was your week?
Pretty good, pretty good. Settling into the semester over here at UC. Second week is always kind of like a more chilled, laid back kind of thing. Plus, we had Monday off for Martin Luther King Day, so it's just been like kind of an easy week in like a really good way. So
Good.
that's good. Family's good. Health is like I have less of a cold this this week than most weeks. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. How about you, Don? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I named our show today On the Outside Looking In,
Mm.
but not in a bad way. I'm kind of enjoying this part of the I didn't even get to the point this season. You know how I usually say, I can't believe it's week 10. I can't believe it's oh my gosh, it's
Hmm.
going so fast. But it went so fast that I didn't even have time to say that this time.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's like, okay, we are almost to the Super Bowl.
Which is crazy, right? My
Hmm.
goodness. And this is a fun part of the year. I totally agree because even though kind of almost because the Packers aren't in, it's a more fun because I don't feel like the anxiety. It's just like,
True.
you know what? There's gonna be some probably really good football games this weekend. I mean, did you watch many of them last weekend?
All of them.
They were so good. Like
No.
every game, even if not for the whole thing, at least for half of it, at least, but most of them for the whole thing, really
Mhm.
good games. Like I was
Mhm.
entertained. So
Very much so.
no, and to be able to watch them and just enjoy like good play for what it was and not like
Mhm.
oh, the Packers gonna win. When are the Packers on? And especially like a performance that Dak Prescott put on. Like I can't imagine. Or I mean, it's hard to remember any like non-Rodgers complete performance from like beginning to end that was just so like dialed in and
Yeah.
accurate and just like he just like it was just fun to watch. Like I don't really care about the Cowboys. I
Right.
don't. I used to kind of hate them, and it's like there's nothing I hate about them. They're fine.
Yeah.
Um, but watching that, I was just like, man, this is a fun game to watch. Plus it was fun seeing Tom Brady's team being disassembled. So it was nice.
Oh, and that gangster move, his last play. Did you see what he did? He's getting a lot. Brady is getting a lot of criticism throughout.
What do you mean?
He slid in for that touchdown,
Hmm.
and he basically took intentionally the feet out from underneath the player, and yeah, and then all of a sudden I was hearing on these podcasts about how he's been known for this his whole career, and they're just so disappointed. I mean, these are people who are usually Brady. This is like national podcasts, and I'm
Hmm.
talking about it. And I was like, wow, he's a real gangster. That's just not a good, I hope he doesn't go out that way. I mean, he's going to have to come back and correct it, but I guess that's who he is. And that's what they were saying. And
Hmm.
I didn't know that. I didn't know
Hmm.
that. He's
Me
known for,
neither.
he kicked, I mean, they were going through all these, um, examples in history of him like kicking a player. He kicked one player and the guy needed surgery. I mean,
My goodness.
I know I'm going to have to make this a superlative, I think, because to intentionally, but yeah, it was pretty mind boggling that, that people were saying that. I think people are really sick of Brady. I think they're sick of some of the old timers, huh?
Yeah,
Maybe
I think so. Honestly,
ready
um,
to move on.
I bet he'll be with another team next year. Maybe just for a year, maybe for 2 years. I don't know. I don't think we're done with him yet. And even if he's not playing, he'll be like in a booth or doing something. Like he's gonna be around for I think for a long time. Whereas versus like Aaron Rodgers, when Aaron Rodgers retires, I think he's gonna just go like live with
He
his
said he doesn't
covered in
want
witches in a deep swamp somewhere. And we'll never hear from him again.
to.
Do you
Yeah,
see that?
Rogers said he didn't want to work in football. But
Yeah.
you know what? The interesting thing about these guys who were talking about Brady, about his potential, I guess he's got an open invitation to become a commentator. They're
Hmm.
like, how is he going to, after he did that on his last play, how is he going to talk about things going on in the field like this and
Hmm. Hmm.
accurate, like, and have any kind of credibility?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there were people who are really up in arms about this.
That's interesting. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't heard any of that any of that noise. Totally missed
Mm-hmm.
that this week. But it's good to hear people saying stuff about Brady apart from greatest quarterback ever. Like I'm so sick of that. Everyone's sick of that. So not sad about that.
Mhm.
Another thing I wanted to mention too from the games, of course, we'd be remiss to not mention it. seeing the Vikings lose was great.
It was so funny.
But just as great then was Twitter, for like the next half of the day, maybe 24 hours even, just all of the
Oh,
all the Vikings fans who chirped so much for the last year, for the last decade, getting upset that Packers fans were like,
laughing.
haunting them. Okay, guys, you know what? This is just us giving it back, is all this is. So you can
It's
just,
all it is. And it's for fun. It's not, we don't like,
well, we think it's for fun.
we think it's for fun. Yeah. I am not one to do that, to rejoice when somebody else fails ever.
Right,
Like
right.
that's just not, but this time it was like so much fun. It was just because of the vibe that they, yeah. I
Because
did
of the
tweet
vibe
out.
that, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I did tweet out one thing which I should probably take down. Nobody liked it anyway, but I don't think, maybe one person. I wrote, oh, look at Mike Florio in his little purple tie. How adorable. After the game. I felt bad because he's a true fan, he's just a fan. He's not out there. Anyway, but I don't like to make fun of people when they're down, especially. but it was,
but there's
fun.
a time and a place for it. It's
there
rare, but yep. No, I agree. So great weekend of football. I hope we have another great weekend coming up here. We do have a comment from a viewer, Too Deep. Thanks for joining us.
Too Deep.
Too Deep saying Karen Frogers is the best nickname ever, though, right? So I think it's clever. I mean, I will say definitely, it is very clever, but putting a fraud into Aaron Rodgers' name, I'm going to disagree with that. I do think that is he declining? Is it all the things that went against him? John Meerdink had a great podcast about this week. Like, how do we really understand Aaron Rodgers' play in this season? It's hard to, because it's like every little thing you could say. It's like, but it was this, but it was this, but it was this. So it's hard to really evaluate it. But I would still say, Aaron Rodgers isn't a fraud. Clever nickname, though. Definitely clever nickname.
It's cute. I like it. Yeah. I haven't heard it. I wasn't on Twitter. I just heard on a podcast about the stuff with Brady. I think I heard it mentioned. And what was really bothersome, though, is, again, we had a bad injury. That was Monday night, right? Yeah, that was Monday Night Football.
Yes.
And the Buccaneers player, Gage, I forgot his last name, who went down like in the last, before that touchdown, with the bad injury, had to get carted off a back head, and it's okay, Too Deep. We love it. We have a good sense of humor here. It's okay. If we dish it out, we have to be able to take it, right? Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so, it was very somber. Another injury, Monday Night Football, only a week after DeMar went down. And of course, this gentleman, he had, I think it was a neck and head injury. I didn't get any final, he was walking and he had extremity movement and stuff. It was nerve wracking. And then the next thing that Brady does is that, take somebody out. I tuned out completely. I was just mad at that game toward the end. And it wasn't that much fun, really, because the Bucks didn't stand a chance against the Cowboys. But I think Dak Prescott is fantastic. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've been watching him for a couple of years, and I was watching the game when he broke his leg, when he broke his ankle, and it was so traumatic. I was like, don't even show that. It was so bad. It just in real time was watching it. I wasn't watching the replays or anything. And all of a sudden I saw him bring his leg up, and I started looking away, but I got enough of it to know that it was compound fracture. And but I've been watching him, and prior to that, he lost his brother and his mother, and and he has a lot to say about mental health, and he even mentioned that after the game on Monday night. And so I really like that. I respect him, and I don't mind seeing Mike McCarthy doing well and happy.
I agree with every single thing you just said. Exactly where I'm at with it too. His focus on mental health. McCarthy, I mean, how do you not love Mike McCarthy? For all the his great years here, even like the years that kind of stank at the end, he got a Super Bowl. So what are you gonna do about that? How are you gonna complain about that? So,
did you hear that story about, I don't know, it was somebody who was in the equipment room, or somebody who was in one of those support jobs that doesn't get any glory, that he and Mike McCarthy would play I can't remember what game it was. Was it chess or cribbage or something like that? They'd have like a card game every week, the two of them. This
That's
guy.
adorable. I mean, because
It's
yeah, Mike
really,
McCarthy seems like a down to earth kind of guy, you know?
yeah. I can't remember where that came from. And then there was something else I heard too. It'll come to me back. But yeah. So okay, Too Deep says, I don't think anyone outside of Tampa really thought they had a chance to beat Dallas. Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, I never count Tom Brady out though. You know, I
Sure,
don't.
sure.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I mean, the Cowboys are clearly a better team and had more wins, much better record than Tampa, which I think was also telling. But just, you know, just a more complete team at this point. So, no, I totally agree.
I know what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Funniest troll. And I do not like Jerry Jones very much.
Sure.
But I think I retweeted what he tweeted. Could somebody, okay, I have to find it about the kicker.
Was that a real tweet?
He did.
I was wondering if that was a parody tweet or
No.
what. I know what you're talking about now.
It was. He tweeted, let me find it. You go ahead and chit chat for a second. And I'll find it because I tweeted. It was so hilarious. Jerry Jones won. I thought the internet that night, and I don't think it was fake. I think it was a real deal. He said, if you can kick and are currently in the stadium right now, come down to the field. We've got a jersey for you.
That poor kicker. That was,
I know.
That was a rough night. Was the guy's name Brent Maher or something like that? That was a rough night for that poor guy.
He's really good. He's really good.
Yeah, he's been really good all season. Yeah. Just have one bad night. I mean, it happens, obviously.
Hey, Katie.
Oh, Katie's here. Hey, Katie. So a question I have for you, Don, actually, before we get into like the superlatives and everything else. So we have 4 teams from the NFC still in it. You know, it's going to be what? The 49ers, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants, right?
Yes.
Who are you rooting for at this point?
Well, I've liked the Eagles. I was kind of rooting for Tua all along. Not Tua, Jalen Ramsey. Not Jalen Ramsey.
Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts. Okay.
Like, I don't care for Jalen Ramsey. He's terrible. Jalen Hurts, yes.
Hurts. So, because I feel bad, like he can't play, so maybe kind of the ego. I don't really care. And then I want on the other side of things, I want the Jaguars.
Ooh, way to pronounce it nicely.
I kind of want them to beat the Chiefs, but I kind of want them to lose because I'm sick of people saying Jaguars. And if they're out of the playoffs, they don't. It drives me. But
it really bothers you. I know.
What about you? Who are you? I mean, I don't want the 49ers. Who's the 49ers?
Who they're playing? They're probably playing the Giants. I would think the Giants must be the lowest.
I want the Giants. I'm in New York. I like New York. Yeah.
All right. For me, 49ers are the ones that I want to see lose, but they're probably the ones who'll be in the Super Bowl because they are just ridiculous. Their offense is insane right now. It's like it's like the Shanahan offense, like to its most fully formed, kind of level. So they're very frightening right now. They would have destroyed us if we had made the playoffs. I mean, I'm almost happy that we didn't have to live through that again for a third time in the last 4 years.
That would have been ugly.
Would have been bad. But suffice to say, I don't like the 49ers one tiny bit because they've been so rough for Packers postseasons. So it's weird because as I was formulating the question to ask you, I was like, well, who would I be cheering for at this point? And obviously the Bengals, but for the NFC, who do I want to see make it? It might be the Cowboys. And that's weird to me. Am I really cheering for the Cowboys now?
I don't. Yeah, right.
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't really root when it's not teams that I care about that much. Mm-hmm. I don't really.
Sure.
I just am kind of neutral, but I really enjoy watching. And maybe things during the game might make me go like, oh, I want this team to win, or like if somebody's playing dirty, then I want the other team to win, or when or if they're. But normally the underdog. But the Giants are coming back. I like to see that. They haven't been doing super great over the years. They're kind of rebuilding. Hey, Lorenzo, how are you?
Lorenzo Anderson in the chat here saying, hey, glad you're here, Lorenzo. And our friend Katie in the chat is saying that she has to go with the Eagles, but also makes a barf emoji along with it. Yeah, no, I mean the Eagles.
Right.
That should be a fun game. Seeing the Eagles play, because I mean they're really good, and Jalen Hurts will be back. So he's missed a few weeks. That they have looked much less amazing without him. So to see him back this weekend is going to be pretty exciting.
Oh,
So
he is coming back.
yeah,
Okay.
he's off the injury report and everything. So he's like full in.
Okay, so wait a minute. So let me get this right.
Mhm.
Let me get this straight. Okay, so the Giants are playing the Eagles?
If I remember correctly, because the Eagles are the number 1 seed and the Giants are the lowest seed remaining, I
Okay.
believe. Pretty
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so then in that case, I want the Giants. Because they're the underdog and because
Sure.
they're and then Cincinnati and Buffalo Bills. Oh,
Yeah.
again.
Ooh, that's going to be a really good game. It's a game that should have already happened and didn't, of course. And
Yeah.
if it had happened, and if Cincinnati had won, it'd be happening here instead of out in New York. Up in
Where's the neutral? Oh, so they're gonna do it in Buffalo.
they're
So,
doing in Buffalo, yeah, or in whatever it's Orchard Park, whatever it is. But
so they're
yeah,
not doing a neutral. I thought that they were gonna neutralize the spot or
they
something.
should, but they're not gonna. Which is
That's not right. That's not
I
right.
agree. It's an injustice. So
Yeah, I think the Bengals did get. I think a lot of people understand that the Bengals kind of got the short end of the stick of that.
they absolutely did. Absolutely.
Lorenzo, who are you watching this weekend? Who do you want to win? Katie says, I just hate the Cowboys and the 49ers, and I can't see the Giants winning.
No, the Giants not going to win that game. I mean,
exactly, but things could happen. I mean,
well, any given Sunday, blah blah blah, right? Yes, they could win, but they're not gonna.
Unlikely.
Let's just say.
Okay, and Too Deep wants to know, how did you and Dawn, speaking I guess to Matt, how did we meet, Maddie? Are we related? No.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this show? Okay, we've got some answers for you. Also, well, oh no, we're not going to ignore you, Too Deep.
Too Deep, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're interacting with us, man. We appreciate it. So I said, man, I don't know if you're a man or woman, but anyhow, we met through kind of being in the same spaces and Twitter, kind of the same sorts of comment sections and stuff like that. And Dawn, I think Dawn liked my vibe and I liked Dawn's vibe. And then Dawn said kind of out of the blue, hey, want to do a podcast? And I was like, I don't have anything to say, but we kind of like talked back and forth about like what it could be about, and realized having a podcast where we just appreciate the stuff that we like, especially in the Packers content world, was going to be a fun thing to do. And we've been going strong since. This is episode full on number.
So it's
episode
20, so that means 72. So 72. A year in 20 weeks.
Pretty good.
So we're on a second season where every week we haven't missed 1 week somehow or another. And we're both originally from Wisconsin. Yeah, we met on Packers Twitter, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
And we met within all of the content, kind of like the way you and I met Too Deep. We're watching. Too Deep is also a trial watcher and true crime, like me and Katie. And so Too Deep and I met in that world, in the social media and YouTube in true crime. So Katie says, you don't have anything to say.
Oh, Katie, you're so sweet. I love you so much. I really do. No, I mean, like in terms of like analysis, like, serious analysis, like you would hear on, Pack a Day or Reporting is Eligible or Blue 58 or all the other podcasts that we love to talk about so much. Right. No, I can talk about the stuff I love. I can talk all day about that. But in terms of like analysis for the team, no.
Right. And
kind of, but not a lot.
So what we do here, and we do have some new listeners here, and welcome. And we love that. So just by way of reminder, what we do here is we talk about great content that we found during the week. We also have guests on, many amazing guests that blow us away, that they even want to be on our show,
including Katie. She's been on the show twice.
Generally content creators or just super fans, super NFL fans. I like football. I think both Matt and I got really, really focused on content and absorbing everything we could during the COVID years. And so that's when I started to really like football. I started to like it a few years back, and then I really started getting into it during COVID. But most of my life, I hated football, so it's kind of funny story. You know what, Matt? You look like you're wearing one of the retro jerseys.
I am. I was going to talk about that since you brought it up. Yeah.
Oh.
So I want to give a shout out to my friend The Glenn at The Glenn 2 N's on Twitter. Really, really good guy. He did a contest to give away this jersey. And I happened to be the person who won it. It's actually like a donation to a charity, and yeah, it's so donate to a charity to be in a drawing, basically.
Right.
And I happened to win the drawing, and so yeah, I've got this throwback Rogers jersey. Well, there we go.
Oh, it's a 12. I love it. I love it.
Super awesome looking jersey. So
it is.
Thanks,
I like it. I could barely see it from here, and I'm like, is that a retro jersey?
It is. Yeah. No, it came in the mail today, so I thought I'd wear it as a show of thanks for Glenn for sending this.
Thank you, Glenn. And okay, so Lorenzo said he doesn't like either team, but his mom loves the Cowboys. So he's rooting for the Cowboys because he loves his mama. Yes, so we are both Green Bay fans. We're both originally from Wisconsin, and neither of us are living in Wisconsin anymore. So, but because if you're from Wisconsin, you kind of have to be a Packers fan. You don't have a choice. And I got out of it for most of my life by just hating football in general. But then all of a sudden I got the football bug, and now it's like I have to be a Packer fan. But in my defense, I watch a lot of football. Like I watch a lot of teams, and I follow a lot of players and parts of teams. Of course, I am a Chargers backer because it's from San Diego, which is where I live. All my friends here are Chargers fans, even though they went to LA. Some Rams fan, a lot of Rams fan. I have a lot of friends who are Rams and 49ers fans in California. They're most teams that I like somebody on or something about the team. There's only, I think, one or two whose names I won't.
Dawn doesn't like Aaron Rodgers.
No, it's not that. No, I was talking about other teams.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Rodgers fan from a football standpoint, but I just I could do without all the drama.
I think you and most Packers fans at this point probably. And just to finish up the questions, it's like Too Deep's interviewing us tonight is what it's like. So
thank you.
Yeah, and so I mentioned the Bengals earlier. They're my secondary team because I live in Cincinnati. It's my adopted home, though I did grow up and go to school all in Wisconsin. And my love affair with the Packers, I grew up watching with my dad, and then living away from Wisconsin, it was a good way to reconnect or stay connected to my. I'm getting an echo here, Dawn. I'm not sure what's going on.
I don't hear it.
Oh.
Good.
Anyhow, so I watched it with my dad growing up, and then after moving away, got much more invested in it as a way to like connect back to the homeland, to have stuff to talk about with my dad and with other people. So just especially during COVID, with getting really involved in the Packers Twitter scene. But yeah, no, I mean I've been watching for decades. So my first memories of the Packers go back to watching Don Majkowski make the Packers fun again, basically.
Aw, that's so cool. And by the way, Too Deep, I'm old enough to remember when Vince Lombardi was a coach and Bart Starr was the quarterback. My dad would take us to, the whole family to practice. I remember the day Vince Lombardi died. I was very young, but still deeply embedded. If you're from Wisconsin, football is a big deal. You just, And by the way, Too Deep, Katie is here in the comments, and Too Deep, Katie, excuse me, with Too Deep was going to come on our show with us one of these days, on our show.
The show that you and Katie do?
In Tarot Talk. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. So we all have a lot in common. Who's laughing? Are you laughing because I'm old? The funniest thing is Matt used to make kind of joke because I would mention how old I am like the whole first year of our show, but I haven't been mentioning
every episode. No, I almost made a reference to that. I almost said, "Oh, darn, there's the almost obligatory weekly reference to your age." But yeah, exactly.
Shot. maybe on the show. Okay, Katie says, "Yay!" Too Deep says maybe. Okay, well, we'll work it out.
Right.
Okay, so let's get to what we're doing. So every week we pick, Matt and I pick out usually 3 superlatives, the best of, the worst of, or something in between that we liked from the week in the NFL from content creators to help you as a football fan know kind of what to look at. Maybe if you don't have time to consume as much content as we do. So, Maddie, let's get started. What's your first superlative?
Yeah. Do you want to volley on this one?
Sure.
And I brought a ton. So I should say just to the listeners, Dawn had said she's feeling a little under the weather, so I should probably just bring a whole lot. I brought 5, which is way more than usual. So we'll go back and forth on these as we sometimes do. And so my first one, as I'm getting in the show document back to it. Oh, funniest video. Okay, so this is a great Tom Grassi video, and so for those who never heard of him, Tom Grassi is an amazing video creator, has a bajillion followers. He was able to quit his day job to actually do it full time, which is amazing. And so he did a video called the NFC North's reaction to the wild card round. So it was funny because I was like, he's playing basically like each team as just represented by himself in like the jersey and a suit jacket for the 3 non-Vikings teams. So it's funny because like the Vikings guy walks into the room and they're like, why are you guys wearing suits? They said, oh, we wanted to look nice for your funeral. And like, just kind of going back and forth and like basically everyone cutting on the Vikings. It was fantastic. I mean, Tom Grassi is hilarious. And so good example of just an excellent video from him. Do you see that one, Don?
I did see it, and I'm a big fan of Tom Grassi. He's one of the reasons I really got to love football so much, and the Packers Twitter. And everything that we mention as our superlatives will be in the show notes after the show too, so you can take a look. But we're big fans of Tom Grassi, and he has a very successful YouTube channel. It doesn't matter if you're a Packers fan or any other fan. He has a lot of different team fans following him. He's a comedian. And he's actually quite brilliant. So he didn't just play. He played the Lions and all the dialogue between each person. So it was just but it was epic. You can't really describe it adequately, but yeah, that's the funniest. That was a good one for the week. Excellent.
And Katie mentioned in the comments, Katie said, dude, Tom knocked it out of the park this past week. That is true. I mean, he's brilliant every week, but that was especially good this week. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, Don, what do you have for your first one?
And by the way, he live streamed every single game last weekend. Every single game. And I will probably be sitting on a Flemlo's live stream with Flemlo and for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's a big Bengals fan. And the Bills. So okay, so my first one is best friends. And we have the best friends of the show. And sometimes we forget to mention who we're going to have on for the next show. So I'm going to just shout out all the next 3 guests that we're going to have on our show.
Spoiler alert.
Yes. So next week we're having Robin Adams. Then after that is Greg Meinholz. And then our wonderful Steve Perhatch, who was on a guest when you were gone, but never with us too. So super excited about our next 3 guests. And if you're watching, if you're following this show, thank you for doing that. But just so you know, if you kind of maybe have figured this out, but what Matt and I do is we do 3 shows, generally just Matt and I, and then 3 shows with a guest. And then 3 shows with Matt and I, 3 shows with a guest. So that's how we alternate. So tonight is the last of just Matt and I, and then we'll have 3 guests for the next 3 weeks. And I'm excited. We have the best friends, such great support. Love our guests. I wish we could just have, wouldn't it be fun to just have like all of them on at once? Like
that'd be chaos.
We need to have a party.
A party, yes.
A party with all of our guests.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, so best friends.
I love that. Don, that's a good one. I'm especially excited. I'm excited for all of them, but I was guest hosting on Robin's podcast for the last 4 weeks with him and Gilbert Brown. So it'll be good to finally have him on our show.
Yeah.
For the reciprocity there. So Robin's a really good dude. They're amazing people. Yeah. So anyhow, all right, my next one then. Best argument. So this is one of those sort of articles or other videos in this case that from the title, you're gonna be like, what is going on here? What's this about? But it was really good. This is one of Andy Herman's like video pack-a-days. It was it's time to trade Aaron Rodgers. And so I saw that, I was like, okay, all right, come on, man, whatever. But of course, Andy is so good at developing an argument and explaining it like in a very clear, concise, and cogent way, where it's like you kind of walk away going, yeah, he might be right about this. It might be time to trade Aaron Rodgers. And I know that there's like counter arguments, and he always acknowledges counter arguments, and I feel like sometimes doesn't go super deep on them, which I think is okay because he only has so much time. But the arguments he made were so strong that it's got me rethinking some things, because I was like, I've been like, we need Aaron Rodgers back for one more year. I think we, if things just don't go so against us with injuries and everything else, I feel like we really have a shot at it. But after listening to that podcast, I don't know. I don't know. I think we may be better off just trading him, getting a haul, starting like the real new era. I mean, we've seen so many other teams in the last like year or two, or probably 5 really, who do start over like with a new sort of, because it's not rebuilding per se, you know what I mean? But it's like kind of starting the new era with how their offense is built and how they run things. And so many of those teams have been really exciting and a lot of fun. And they're
right.
It was such a frustrating season, so maybe it's colored by that. But suffice to say, common, typically excellent argument from Andy Herman on that. It was outstanding.
Right. And he made a video last year and even talked about it a little bit this year. Is similar. Like, why would you trade Aaron Rodgers like last year after coming off of two MVPs? Well, from a business standpoint, it would actually make a lot of sense.
Yes.
And financially. And because we didn't, then we ended up with this kind of mixed matchy kind of, not a reboot, not a refuel, not a anything.
Yeah.
Not a run it back. We got what we paid for. Like, we paid for somebody, we really did. And I mean, they did okay. It was not, and I don't feel like anything I'm thinking of is really I'm not upset. I'm like, this is what I expected could very likely happen. I was hoping we would do better. But I think if there's a chance, if he doesn't walk away from the game altogether, then heck yeah. My whole thing, and I loved all the way he argued it, but my whole thing is I'm just still not convinced that Aaron Rodgers, even playing better, not injured, would have brought us any farther than Jordan Love would have this year.
That's a good point.
And I believe Love would have done better because we would have had more resources to surround him with more talent.
Yeah, if we could have gotten like Chris Olave, for example.
So there's that.
Yeah.
But now you asked my opinion. I just went in there and had to
No, it's true, because we're kind of stuck in like a weird middle ground, which during the season I was kind of like, I'm not going to worry about, what's going to happen, where we're going to be at after the season, because I'm enjoying, seeing them beat the Cowboys and the exciting games they had, especially like down the stretch at the end there. But now, I mean, the party's over. Now we're like,
what else?
We're stuck in the middle. We're stuck in the middle between, a rebuild or not a lot of cap space. Just it's a dumb place to be.
Yeah, and I think it's hurting Matt LaFleur's future. I think it's hurting a lot of players.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's why they had issues in the locker room that a lot of people aren't talking about. And it's not that I don't like Aaron Rodgers. It's just a business. It's just I tend to be practical, I think, about things like that. So that's all.
No, from a practical standpoint, I think it's time to move on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a tweet I'm going to get to in a little bit here. I want to get to my last superlative that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. But the other thing I was going to say is that I forget, Dawn. Something else I was going to say.
Like I do. That's wonderful. I feel good.
If I remember it, I'll let you know.
I'm doing it a lot. I'm still dealing with a lot of health issues, so my brain's kind of like fuzzier than usual. Okay, I'll put one in here and see if this will help jog your memory. Most sad.
Oh no.
Now this isn't having to do with anyone's content. Okay, this is just most sad is the Chargers lost to the Jaguars. Mostly, and I mentioned it, I kind of gave a little sneak preview of this, mostly because I have to listen to everyone say Jaguars for the next week. It's not Jaguars, but okay.
Jaguars.
But because I have really mixed feelings about Brandon Staley as a coach. And
Hmm.
I'm not usually out there, and I never am with Rodgers, like pitchfork, fire him or fire this coach or fire that coach or whatever. But I kind of almost felt like I was going to get that way with Brandon Staley. And not only because of this year, but because of last year. Last year, he was just so stubborn and dogmatic on going for the fourth down, no matter what. And it ended up costing them.
Mm-hmm.
So he was criticized for that. So this year, he showed a little bit more flexibility. And it's like, you're paid a lot of money. Why did you have to go through a whole season to learn that? Like, that's weird. And then this year it was other things that he just did that were so upsetting. And even I, who know nothing about football, I like to say, knew that shouldn't happen. And then I'd go out into, NFL Twitter and it'd be like, everyone's saying this, so I must be right. My gut instinct. But this year, I think I'm just really annoyed that he played the top, like he played Justin Herbert, he played Williams, he played all the top first string players in a game that didn't have any consequences. Yeah. The week before last week's game, which they should really have won. Then they didn't have Mike Williams because of his stupid decision about playing him. And it's not that he made a bad decision, because coaches can do that, but it just seems to me, because I'm kind of like I pick up on people's vibes, but it just seems to me like it's just like last year's issue. He was just being stubborn. He was just being insular and insulating himself, and not, it's like having to learn everything the hard way. And I don't think a head coach for a professional football team should be doing that. I mean, that's like high school level. So that's what I have to say.
And then they fired their offensive coordinator.
Well,
I think it was a way to save face.
Yeah, a lot of people wanted Lombardi, who's the grandson of Vince Lombardi, wanted him to go. They were blaming him, and they also fired the quarterback's coach. And Staley's there for now. So yeah, they are saying that, but a lot of people wanted all of them to go. So I don't know what Staley said to keep his job, but they could have had Sean Payton. He was available and he wanted to go. All accounts were that he wanted to go to the Chargers.
Really? Oh, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah. And so now he's going back to college. Yeah. Yep.
Goodness.
He's going back to college. Coach college football. Anywho, okay. So I had to just vent. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it is. No, absolutely. What is it? We're just talking about Tom Grassi. What are you talking about, man? All right, so
I'm late. I'm late on the
All right, so my next one, Dawn,
yes,
was Clearest Eyes. This is going out to Bill Huber, of course, is a beat writer for SI.com. And his article, I love this title so much, Don. The article was, Aaron Rodgers brings the stupid out of people. Does Aaron Rodgers only care about MVPs? That's what you'd think if you only paid attention to the clickbait whores. That is the full title with like the subtext. I couldn't believe he said whores in the name.
Right.
That's not his usual thing. So that really amused me. But no, after, Aaron Rodgers said a lot of stuff this week on Pat McAfee. It was like over an hour he was on. Said a lot of stuff. And of course, people were quick to take some things out of context and like try to misrepresent some things, or maybe just didn't comprehend the full scope of it. You see all kinds of stupid discourse this week on Twitter. God, that was just Tuesday, and it's only Thursday as we're recording this. It's been 2 days. It's been the most tiresome 2 days on Packers Twitter in recent memory because of this. So Bill's article is like, okay, people, if you're going to say anything about this, go watch the interview first so you actually know the context and understand where these things were coming from. So Bill just laid down the facts, said, here's what was up. Please stop just, digging the clickbait whores, as he said. So typically excellent work from Bill. It was outstanding.
I love it. That's funny. I purposely didn't. first of all, I never listened to the Pat McAfee thing. Now I do listen to the summary that Sarah does on Pack a Day on Wednesdays,
much more
but
efficient.
that's about all I can take of it. And even that is kind of like, oh God, what's he gonna be this? But I stay blissfully away from Twitter at certain times of the week, and yeah. I noticed this today when I got on to message you. I was like, oh, Jordan Love is trending. Oh, that's interesting. What happened? Then I heard there was a lot of stuff about Rodgers and McAfee, and
yeah, we're on full blown Rodgers watch again.
Yeah. I'm not watching. I refuse to watch. Okay, so my next superlative goes to me.
All right, Dawn.
Best tease. Okay, I have another superlative, and it's fraternizing. It's with my Fraternizing with the Enemy series, but I think it's too soon this week to do it. Okay. So out of respect for the individual who I'm going to talk about in my next Fraternizing with the Enemy episode, I'm just going to say, stay tuned, because it's going to be a good one. And it has to do with a player who did better than a lot of people thought this year. I'm just going to give you a couple of hints. He did better than people thought. Happy surprise. But unfortunately was on the team that got one of the teams that got knocked out this last weekend. So that's why I say it's
here. Yeah.
It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. The pre-shout out, preemptive shout out to Dawn for the great work that you're going to do on this segment. I know I can't wait to hear it. Katie agrees. Katie's also not on Rodgers' watch. She just doesn't care. I refuse. Hear it. No. Yeah, I mean, at this point, like, if he's back, cool. It'll be a fun season. If he's not, cool. We can move on. Either way is honestly fine by me at this point. I was never like get rid of Rodgers before, and I'm just like, if we get rid of him, yeah, I'm good with it. I'm gonna roll with it either way. So I wasn't
really on the get rid of him band. I was never on that bandwagon either. I just saw the logic of why, what could happen if this ended up the way it did.
Yeah. Darn, the thing you just made me think of it. The thing that I forgot to say before. So when Andy Herman had done that episode a year ago about like should we trade Rodgers, right? That was a thought experiment. It was like, let's just talk about it. He didn't really think we should. Versus this year, I was like, we should. And so that says a lot about like just what happened this season. So yeah, thanks. I'm glad you said the thing. Maybe anyhow. All right, now I've got two more. You're all done, right? So I should just go for both of them.
My three. Go for it.
All right. So next one, most fascinating interpretation. So this is a tweet that our friend Monty Moore, known as Ferd Turgeson on Twitter, tweeted out. This made me think. I think it's a really good interpretation of what's happening right now between Gutekunst and Rodgers and all that drama. I'm just going to read the tweet straight up. It's great. Here's what Monty said. He said, there's a weird stalemate occurring between Rodgers not wanting to be seen as forcing a trade out of Green Bay the way his predecessor did, and Goody not wanting to be known as the guy who traded away the franchise icon the way his predecessor did. So in that kind of context, it's like they both want to not be the same thing that the people before them were. They want to have it go a different way, but there seems to be things they both want to do, from like the way they talked about it, the way how Rodgers talked about it on McAfee, the way how Goody talked about it in his end of the season press conference. I feel like that's a very valid reading of the situation, and one I had not considered, when I hadn't heard, around Twitter or any podcasts.
Right.
Very intrigued with that, because I feel like that could be spot on. That could really be it.
Well, I agree, and we know Ferd is brilliant, and we've had him on our show before, but we should probably have him on just to talk about this a little more. But my feeling has been, definitely my thing is that they're trying to figure out a way so everyone's reputation basically can be preserved now and in the future. And I mean, nobody well, maybe some people, I shouldn't say that, But most people don't want Rodgers to go away with negative. I think most people want him to be welcome back when he retires, even if he goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
Want to see him do well, right? I mean, I don't think anyone wants that, right? And so there has to be some kind of a negotiated. It's chess playing, but it's it's PR and all that they're trying to think about the organization's future and Rodgers' reputation as well. I mean, because Rodgers can only do so much. If he goes out somewhere else and he plays terribly, he's got that on him. But if he plays terribly and he's hated by Packers fan because of the way he did it, it's kind of like Favre all over again. So I think that's not that hard for them to negotiate a way that doesn't happen. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Yeah. And I can see on Goody's side too. It's like, he doesn't want to be the one blamed for kicking Rodgers out, because I mean, a couple of years ago, it was implied that it was all Goody not respecting Rodgers and this and that. And as we know, that turned out to be a bunch of fluff. That was not even true. and you know who put that out though? Mr. Rodgers. He was the one who kind of planted that. So I think Rodgers is probably the best person to manage that from a PR standpoint. All of it, not Goody.
He's a complicated fella, is the thing.
It's a complicated mess. Now it could be done. It could be done. Send him off in a positive way. That's all. Not like Green Bay Packers having a funeral. Remember, with the hearse and everything for Brett Favre? Did you see the
No,
hearse?
what?
Oh my God.
I don't remember this.
Oh, it was like you're dead to us kind of thing. And they had a funeral that far, like a fake funeral, and they had a hearse and a car. I mean, it was ugly. It was ugly.
That's so terrible.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been perfect if it would have been, Packers win the Super Bowl and, as Aaron Rodgers has said, like right off into the sunset. That would have been perfect, great way to like end the era, good vibes all around. Let's go on after that. But obviously that did not happen.
It did not happen. And I still pride myself at having played, having gone to Lambeau for Rodgers' first game as the starter. I mean, that stuff with Favre was still fresh. I mean, people were wearing Favre shirts, and it was like a battle. And it was quite. Stuff. Yeah, was that 2008? I think. Yeah. So, anywho,
Too Deep had a good comment here. If you want to throw that up, Don. Too Deep said, "Happy Trails is not how football works," and that's such a good point, because, like, even though we might look back on certain eras fondly, like they rarely end nice. Peyton Manning just looked like a shell of himself at the end, Drew Brees could hardly throw a football by the end. Like, it wasn't like glorious endings for most, even like the most celebrated players. If Tom Brady, if that was his last game that he plays, ending by attacking somebody with a slide, it's not exactly a happy Trails ending.
Knocking somebody's kneecap out. Right. That's true. That's a good point, Too Deep. Very, very, very wise. But here's the insight. The fact that it's so important to Rodgers, I think it's, and I've said this all along, Rodgers needs the Packers more than the Packers need the Rodgers. Not the Rodgers. I think it's very important. As much as Rodgers likes to be this cool guy that he doesn't care what anybody thinks, he cares deeply
his legacy.
About what people think. Exactly. And that's what this is all about. I don't even think that I think he's going to be okay, either way, because they're going to move on. Like, it's an organization. This is not about one player. And so good point, Too Deep. Appreciate that.
Yep.
All right.
Well, I had one more last superlative. So this happened the last 2 weekends where I listened to like the last part of On Brand Off Topic, and then was listening to Last Call Lambeau, and then listened to Watching Stuff. This happened like 2 weekends in a row. I was like, that's that, the through line there is that Aaron Ellis is on all of these shows. And so it made me think, like, am I a fan of podcasts or am I a fan of Aaron? Like, I had to stop and think about that. Like, I'm a fan of podcasts. Let's be clear about that. But like, she just does so much work of such high quality that Aaron's getting the shout out this week for hardest working. hardest working,
Yay,
and
Erin.
just everything she does is great. So, Erin, appreciate the work you do.
The Erin Appreciation Podcast here. We love you, Erin Alice. And oh my gosh, she does work hard, but she's not working. She's having fun, and that's why we love her. It's because she's so much fun, super witty, super intelligent. I mean, beyond smart. So that's what we love about Erin. Well, that's awesome, Maddie. Well, I can't wait till next week and to bring one of our new best friends on. And so any final thoughts before we let's wait one more comment.
Okay, one last question from Too Deep here. Last question from Too Deep says, how exciting is it attending a game at Lambeau Field? Electric? I'll say absolutely. So fun. I've only done one, just the Cowboys game this year, finally my first one. Absolutely electric. Plus that was the game, where Christian Watson had his big breakout with 3 touchdowns. That was overtime field goal from Mason Crosby to seal it. That was insane. It was so much fun. So electric. So great.
That was a good game. It's everything you can think of. It's not only electric, but it's nostalgic. It's history. It's a whole vibe. It's a lot of people. It's their dream vacation, their dream destination kind of thing for NFL. A lot of people go, just not necessarily Packers fans, but just football fans will go for a week or whatever. And Green Bay, I don't know how much you know about this Too Deep, but Green Bay is not a very big, it's like a city of maybe 80,000 to 100,000, a smaller city, and the whole city just kind of revolves around Lambeau Field. And of course you probably know that the Green Bay Packers is owned by fans, not by an owner. So that's right. That involvement is, you just kind of feel it's just a whole different vibe than any other kind of sports stadium. So you should go sometime. Have you
awesome.
Too Deep? You're a Tampa, so are you in Tampa Bay? How do you like your stadium there in Tampa Bay? Gosh, it gets so hot there. I can't imagine playing in 90-degree weather with those uniforms. Anyway, okay, Maddie, any final thoughts while Too Deep
Yeah, I just want to say big thanks to all the people who joined us in the comments. It's a very lively comments section tonight, especially all the questions from Too Deep and everyone else. Too Deep says he's in Seattle. He or she, again, I don't know. Sorry if I'm wondering you here, Too Deep, is in Seattle. So very interesting. Century, very loud stadium. So just huge thanks to people who joined us tonight. For people who are listening on Saturday on your podcast platforms or watching the replay of the video, really appreciate it. Appreciate you very much. And just to say that there's only 3 weekends of football left if you don't count the Pro Bowl, because who does? So enjoy it because we're about to get back into like the dark part of the year where there isn't any NFL football. So just soak these last few games in. Enjoy them. Anything else from you, Don, or should I move? Also, sorry, I almost forgot. And I do want to say again, thanks again to Glenn at the Glenn on Twitter for the jersey. I'm loving it. This is really great. So thank you so much for that. All right, Don, should I move into the closing here?
Please do. Let's wrap her up, Maddie. Okay.
Friends, of course, you'll find links in our show description for everyone we mentioned. So please check it out. Also, we'd love to have a chance to interview you and shout you out if you're a subscriber and a football fan, or if you're not, whatever. If you'd like to nominate someone to be a guest on our podcast, please let us know. Our DMs are open on all the social platforms. And folks, when you subscribe to our podcast, you help us to keep spreading the love in our community. And the best way to help this podcast grow is by sharing it with your friends and family.
Yes, that's right, Maddie. And we love you. We're so glad to know you, to be fans of you, and to have the luxury of being fans of the most storied team in the NFL. We appreciate your support, your subscriptions, and sharing our pod. And we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, we like your pod.
Football in general comes down to discipline and people owning their roles. And when you aren't disciplined or you go outside the scheme, Bad stuff happens.